Stop touching your Google ads. Yeah, you heard me right. Really, you need to stop over optimizing your ads account. Constantly tweaking Google ads campaigns doesn't improve your performance. If anything, it destroys it. Smart bidding needs stable data, windows to learn, and frequent changes reset that learning. They erase your ability to diagnose what is actually working, and they tend to burn you out in the process as an ads manager. I think this can be very counterintuitive, especially in paid search, because we so often think like, oh, if we do something, we can be effective. We can just continue to optimize. We're always told optimize. All the articles are about optimizing, but it doesn't always work that way. It's not a one in, one out situation. And you guys know that feeling, right? Where it's 11 p.m., your 3 browser tabs open. Maybe in today's day and age, you've used AI, you've uploaded data. You're like, oh, well, I could do this. I could do that. You're all just thinking that the performance dipped because you didn't or did do something. And it's not really always accurate. So you adjusting a bid or changing your strategy and then changing it back or changing the headline and then pausing a keyword, you're just really confusing the system. And I get it. You're refreshing data. And again, it makes sense as to why we act this way, but you just really can't continue to work this way. You're not optimizing as much as you're thinking. You're really just spiraling, and the account, it can pay for it. You have to think about Google Ads. It's not a control panel. That is what I don't feel like people talk about. Refreshing your Google Ads, it's not an absolute thing. It's not all or nothing. It's not the ads themselves. It's the data that reports on your past. It's not always a lever for the future, if that makes sense. So the data you're looking at, it's already happened, and we want to react to it, but sometimes we want to wait and see and let things play out because we trust the inputs that we put in there and we're moving in that direction. But I know that sometimes our brains, they don't see that. Our brains, they see the numbers and they scream to us to just be doing something. So you do something and then you do another something on top of it and then 3 more somethings. And it's all before lunchtime. This is what I would call the slot machine trap. The psychological loop works like gambling, right? Variable rewards, sometimes good data, sometimes not good data, compulsive checking of the behavior, and the illusion of control. You keep on pulling a lever because maybe this time it'll actually look better. And again, they won't. And it's not because of anything you did. And you have to think about the ads account this way. You're just really doing it because you need a security blanket. And that is not a strategy. The compulsion to act is anxiety wearing a productivity costume, essentially. Recognizing that is really your first step in trying to fix your ads account for real. So this is what I call the system problem, which is Google's algorithm that doesn't care about your feelings. I'm going to talk about this and what is actually happening under the hood of Google Ads from somebody who's been doing this for forever, for somebody who coaches people and teaches them how to run their own Google Ads so they stop paying all these retainers to agencies that are maybe even over-optimizing your account and you just don't know it. And I think this is where a lot of businesses get blindsided. So Google's smart bidding is the machine learning system that controls your bids in real time. It operates in data windows. So think about it like that. It's not operating minute by minute and second by second in the way that we think it is. It's more looking at these windows, and it needs a consistent, stable signal over time to accurately predict what clicks are likely to convert. So yeah, it's real time, but it's making the decisions on the entirety of a window, if that makes sense. So according to Google's own documentation, right, Google Ads has a lot of documentation. Campaigns using automated bidding strategies typically require a learning period of at least 2 weeks and a minimum of 30 to 50 conversions before the algorithm can optimize. I think we've talked about this on the channel. We've talked about data density. I've talked about my rule of 100. I talked about even when I was doing this by hand, I needed those 100 clicks or 100 impressions and just a lump sum of 100. And the platform's no different. It needs to have the confidence to be able to optimize. So every time you make a significant change to the account, like adjusting bids or editing copy or shifting budgets or changing targeting, for gosh sakes, you are partially or fully resetting that learning period and resetting that data. The algorithm has to really start over. It loses that historical signal and begins rebuilding it from scratch. And then when you're making 5 changes in a week because performance looks shaky, you're not really fixing the problem. You're ending up becoming the problem. You're guaranteeing essentially the system never stabilizes long enough to actually work in your favor. The algorithm cannot optimize a moving target. You have to hold still. That is why you have to believe in the strategy you set from the beginning. And this is where we get into the measurement problem. You're really destroying your own evidence when you get to this point. So assume for a second that something does change after one of the edits that you've made. How would you know that that's what caused it? If you've changed 3 other headlines, 2 bids, and a keyword in the meantime, and another match type, and a daily budget in the same week, you have no idea which of those changes actually made the big difference. You really created a scientific nightmare with too many variables, no control group, no clean data. And it isn't just an analytics headache, it's a strategic crisis. Because if you can't identify what worked, then you can't really replicate it. And if you can't identify what failed, then you're going to keep doing it over and over again. So the zero BS rule and thumb when it comes to, what you're actually allowed to edit in an account when you've fallen into this trap, I would say fewer than 30 conversions in the last 30 days, make 1 change at a time, and then wait at least 2 weeks before touching anything. I would say if you have 30 to 100 conversions a month, you can test more actively, but you still want to limit yourself to meaningful changes. And I would say like 1 variable per week. And you really want to make sure that you document what you're doing in the account. If you have 100 plus conversions, like back when I worked at large agencies and I was dealing with corporate clients, you really do have enough data to run proper A/B tests and to make more frequent informed decisions, even if it's changing more than one thing at a time, essentially. Below those thresholds, you're not really making you're not really making the data-driven decisions you think you're making. You're making anxiety-driven decisions and calling them optimization because you think you're optimizing the account. The human problem is burning you out on fake work. I see this time and time again in ad managers who are just absolutely exhausted. And I think that this is a cost that a lot of people aren't really being vocal about in Google Ads circles. What compulsive campaign checking and campaign changes does to you is every refresh is a micro stress event. You're taking on that mental load. Every dip in CTR is an adrenaline spike. It's something you think you did. Every bad day is sending spin triggers and decisions to you that you probably shouldn't have to be thinking about. Over weeks and months, the account accumulates into something that looks a lot like burnout, but it feels like working really hard on the ads. So I think as an account manager, you have to protect yourself, even if you're taking this in-house and you think that, you're getting rid of that retainer. I think you have to be really fair and understand you are taking on a mental load and you can exhaust yourself completely before the account ever has a chance to really stabilize and be performing. And so if you're exhausted and you're a business owner and you're making reactive decisions in a complex platform, and to be fair, this is genuinely one of the most expensive combinations and issues that you can be making in your ads account. And the cruel irony is that the accounts that perform the best are usually the ones that are left alone. And I am not saying set it and forget it because that is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that sometimes you need to pause, look, observe the data with intention. But what you're really doing is your ads account is going to be left alone between those deliberate check-ins. You're putting the space on your calendar to check in and then not stressing about it when you should not be stressing about it. Your mental bandwidth is a limited resource. Wasting it on dashboard and Google anxiety is wasting money, time, and effort, and potentially a situation where you'd be blowing your budget. So what would I say the solution? Put down the keyboard and let the machine work. And again, not set it and forget it, but just let it do its job. It's not glamorous, but it does work. Set a review cadence and stick to it. Weekly reviews for most accounts, bi-weekly if you're running a low conversion volume account, and daily check-ins would be almost never justified unless you're running a massive flash sale with a large client or just a flash sale with a hard deadline. And you need to pick a day, pull the data, and make deliberate changes during that flash sale as consumer behavior is changing. And then close the tab. Document the changes you make. You do have a change history as well. What changed, why you did it, It doesn't have to be super intense. You can leave yourself a voice note. That is a non negotiable. Without the change log, you're not really sure why you made a change. It's hard to go back to your thinking. It's just like in math, when we teach my kid to show their homework, you're doing the same thing. I think with the ability to make voice notes, you can just do that and then upload it all into AI and have it clean it up for you and make it sound great. So you know what you changed throughout the week. I think that's a great habit to get into. And then you can connect cause and effect when performance shifts in your ad account. And really also define what's good and bad before you actually start looking at it. Set the target ROAS or the target CPA threshold, whether or not you're using those to bid against. And if you're inside that range, the account is working. Don't touch it. If you're consistently outside of that range over and over, and if you're looking at being over that in a 2 week period, then you investigate further and make one deliberate change. Use your time that you save doing something that actually moves the needle in your business. Talk to your customers. Again, I made a video about how I am here in observation mode and I'm making content. You can do things like that. Talk to your customers, make content for your customers, watch how they interact with your content, improve your landing pages, write better offers, record a video ad. These are inputs that change businesses' outcomes. Bid adjustments at midnight are not what changes the outcome. The data isn't going anywhere. It'll be there when you come back. Give yourself space, give the algorithm space. And when you do come back rested, clear headed, and on schedule, you're going to make better decisions in your ad account in 10 minutes versus when you sat there for hours just making random changes, or 3 hours or 20 hours. You know how it goes when you're anxious. So, when should you actually worry about the Google ads performance? Because a lot of you guys are going to come at me and tell me, but. So here's the deal. The thresholds that I want you to think about. If performance is significantly below your CPA or your ROAS target for 14 consecutive days with no obvious external explanation, a seasonality, a budget exhaustion, landing page issues, that is a legitimate signal to investigate. One day is noise. 2 bad weeks is absolutely a pattern. Before you touch anything in the account, check the basics first. Is your landing page set up correctly? Do you have landing page alignment to the thing that somebody searched, to what the ad is, to the landing page? Has your offer changed? Did your competitor enter the space? Is there a tracking issue skewing your conversion data? Half of the time, Google Ads problem isn't a Google Ads problem at all. It's something that broke in this chain. All right. See you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening.